Happy Menopause Monday, friends. So today I'm talking about the menopause and the sorts of foods that we should be eating more of in our diet, and also the types of foods that we want to try and avoid, just to make that whole transition a little bit more easy. Now, most of us, as we go through perimenopause through into our postmenopausal years, will struggle with some of the symptoms. And actually, it's really interesting to know that the majority of our symptoms are not necessarily linked specifically to our falling estrogen levels. They are, but hear me out. It's because the adrenal glands, normally in a healthy body that is stress free, will support the job of the ovaries. So when the ovaries go into retirement, once we've stopped laying our eggs and our estrogen levels start to fall, then normally the adrenal glands would actually support the function of the ovaries. But because most of us live really busy, hectic lives, we're all under constant stress, we're constantly pumping out various stress hormones, our adrenals get fatigued. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're in adrenal fatigue. That's a really extreme end of the spectrum. But a lot of us are, whether we can't sleep properly, whether we're not eating properly, whether we're stressed from work, whatever it might be, that has a negative effect on our adrenal glands, which means that as we go through our menopause, we tend to have more symptoms. Now, you'll probably find although it may have been taboo too, but a generation ago, 2 generations ago, you'll probably find the ladies then did not have the same sorts of symptoms that we did in such a wide array and in such sort of intensity. And the chances of that are because lives are very different then. Women had a very specific role, and food was generally healthier. The soil was not so depleted as it is now. We weren't bombarded with GMOs and synthetic fillers and all the stuff that we have in our food now, which, even though is still marketed as marketed as healthy, is still on our shelves. That's one of my bugbears. Marketing has got an awful lot to be answerable for. So today, just want to sort of go over healthy foods that you can eat to support you through the menopause, and just give you a few ideas of those that you should try and avoid or limit. Now, this isn't like a sort of you've got to stop eating stuff. This is about making your lifestyle supportive of a healthier environment while still enjoying the odd treats. Because we all know that, if you want to lose weight, for instance, diets don't work. Deprivation doesn't work. The whole body is not designed to be starved. Things shut down. We go into like survival mode. Our body knows when we are depriving it, which is why often you'll find that people will go on a diet, they'll lose the weight, but then they'll start to eat normally again, and they put on even more weight than they did before. And that's because the body's metabolism has slowed down. It's gone into fat storing mode because it knows you're not giving it what it needs. So everything you give it, it's going to hang on to. And that's why you end up with that yo-yo diet cycle. You lose, you gain more. You lose some, you gain even more than you did before. You lose a little bit more, and then you gain even more than before that. So that's why diets do not work. To lose weight, just as a quick sort of add-on here, yes, you need to be consuming fewer calories than you're burning. However, if you're eating the right foods, you're going to be eating probably more than you would normally do, but it's just you're making sure that you're filling up with the right foods, and you're not eating quite so many of the bad foods. And also, we have different sort of companies have different approaches. I'm not going to negate anyone. That's not what I'm about. But I will tell you that if you're comparing calorie count, it's just a load of BS. Because this annoys me as well. Say like you compare an avocado and a donut. This is a comparison I draw an awful lot, but it makes so much sense. An avocado is way higher in calories than a donut is. However, everything in the avocado is healthy and is going to promote weight loss. Everything in the donut is unhealthy, even though it's got fewer calories, and it's going to make your body hang on to the fat. So, it's not about counting calories. It does not work. You need to eat to lose weight. You need to eat healthy stuff to lose weight. You need optimal nutrition most of the time. So what I'm just going to go through today is just a few healthy tips and strategies that we use in our plans. It's what I follow on a daily basis. Since I've been doing what I'm doing, what I'm sharing with you during these Menopause Mondays, my symptoms have literally, I hardly have any. Recently, I've had a couple more hot flushes, and I will tell you why when I get to the thing to avoid at the end, because I think I know what's triggered that. So just out of interest. So first of all, obviously, as we go through a menopause, progesterone drops, estrogen drops, but we tend to lose our estrogen faster than our progesterone. And estrogen has so many different vital roles in the body. And one of those, we're going to sort of talk about eating foods high in calcium, because obviously one of the things that is a major risk for postmenopausal women is increased risk of osteopenia, which is bone softening, and osteoporosis, which is further along, and that's obviously the brittle bone disease. And with those sorts of things, you actually won't know you've got them until it's too late. They don't tend to show up. So we want to be looking at foods that are going to promote not just healthy weight management, but also that are going to help build the bits that we need to build. So as our estrogen levels reduce, in our bones are basically living creatures. They're living elements of us. They're constantly renewing and repairing and rebuilding and getting rid of the dead stuff. And we have two main cells. We have osteoblasts and osteoclasts. Osteoblasts build our bones. Osteoclasts get rid of specific dead matter. So they're very, very useful to have in actual fact. But as our estrogen levels fall, so does our level of osteoblasts, which are the little things that help to build the bone. And so we have a predominance of osteoclasts, which is one of the reasons why our bones become more brittle as we go through the menopause and beyond. So we want to be making sure that we eat foods high in calcium, but we also need to make sure we've got foods rich in vitamin D and also vitamin K, because those enable us to absorb calcium. And there's also something else to note. If you just flood your body with calcium, your bones aren't necessarily going to take it up. They will only take it up if they need that calcium. And okay, you can say, yes, okay, so in postmenopause, we have a calcium deficit, which is often true. However, unless you're actually using your bones, so for things like weight-bearing exercises, walking, activity, which includes weight bearing. It's got to include weight bearing. Things like swimming and cycling don't really make that much difference to your bone health. You want to be doing like jogging, running. Ideally, you want to be doing exercises which include weights and some kind of up and down movement, because it's that compounding that helps to build the bones up and help the osteoblasts do their job the best. So your bones need to be signaling to the brain that they need calcium because of the movement that you're doing. So although this isn't about exercise is a vital part of getting through the menopause we all know, whether you're menopausal or not, whether you're male or female, doesn't matter. You should be doing some kind of exercise. And as we get older, it's even more important, particularly as our human growth hormone tends to fall off, which helps us build muscles, keeps us looking younger. There are some people out there that will sell you human growth hormone, costs an absolute fortune. But read the reports. There's a lot of reports pointing to extra, because it helps cellular development. There's a lot of reports pointing to increased cancer risk, and also gromily. So big, you almost look like a giant. So your facial features get bigger, your hands, your feet get bigger. And I've also read some reports of like the insides of the tendons can get thicker, and you can almost start to constrict like this. So HGH, as it's needed by the body naturally, is great. I personally wouldn't touch it with the barge pole as far as a supplement goes. I would just make sure I'm eating a healthy, balanced diet, living a fairly healthy lifestyle, so that I can help support my body where my HGH levels might be falling off, obviously because of being postmenopausal. So also, as we go through the menopause, our estrogen levels drop. We also lose our collagen, which is why you might suddenly think, oh my God, I look so wrinkly. Collagen is also a really important component of bone structure, as well as our skin and our nails. So, we want to be making sure that we're eating foods that are going to support our bone and skin health, and also things like, as long as you're not vegan, you can have bone broth. You can boil up a load of bones, boil them really slowly, and then you can use that as the base of various broths and sauces. That's natural collagen. So bear that in mind. There's also collagen supplements. I do take a daily collagen supplement. I think it makes a big difference to my joint health, my how I feel, my facial, particularly on my facial skin. I notice it helps with the tiny little fine lines that appear and things like that. So collagen as a supplement, I think, is a really healthy thing to take. Just make sure you take a bioactive peptide collagen, which helps the body actually absorb and use that collagen effectively. So there's a lot out there, but make sure you get bioactive peptides. Those are the ones you want. So in essence, we want to be crowding out the bad with the good. So this is about just making a few changes to your plate. Now, you're probably going to hate it when I say, but we all need to be eating more vegetables. And ideally, you want to be eating vegetables 3 times a day. Now, I don't eat vegetables 3 times a day every day. Probably 60% of the time I do, but I eat them at least 2 meals a day. And when I eat them 3 times a day, I have a vegetable omelette in the morning. So I have 1 egg with some like red bell pepper chopped up in it, some red onion, green beans, spinach, mushrooms, things like that. And I pan fry that in some butter, grass-fed butter, and that will keep me going for ages and ages. I also have a sprig of either frozen broccoli or frozen cauliflower in my superfood shake that I have every day. I must remember to put my teeth in. And then I always have either salad or vegetables for my main meal too. And since becoming post-menopausal or going through the menopause, I make sure that vegetables are the largest portion of food on my plate. Vegetables we consider as carbs. They do fall under the carbohydrates category. What you want to be making sure is that you're eating fewer of the starchy carbs, so fewer rice, fewer pasta. Try and reduce your bread, and you want to be eating more of the healthy fibrous vegetables that are full of vitamins and minerals as well, which is obviously the vegetables. Fruit also falls under the carbohydrates category. Ideally, you want to be eating dark coloured berries, just because they're full of antioxidants, and those have sort of more of a nutritional punch for us than other fruit does. So, and they're also incredibly high in fibre. They'll help to keep your blood sugars level high in anthocyanins. I can't talk today. Anthocyanins. So that they're really, really good for our overall health. So just try and make sure, maybe as a healthy dessert, you could have like some Greek yogurt, unflavoured Greek yogurt, because flavoured yogurt has incredibly high amounts of sugar in it, even when they're marketed as healthy. And just use some dark berries in it, and that's a really healthy way. Also with a few a scattering of cacao nibs, because they're incredibly high in antioxidants. That's a really nice filling healthy meal, but you don't need much of it. It's just a taste. It's not like a huge bowl of yogurt. It's probably 2 or 3, maybe 2 tablespoons of yogurt, a few berries, few bits of cacao, and then that's it. Leave it at that. I think a lot of us tend to eat beyond when we're no longer hungry, and I would also suggest that's something you start to become aware of. Is maybe eat slightly slower, but stop when you know you're not hungry anymore, because you might say, well, it's going to go in the bin and it's just a waste. Well, if you can use it the next day, stick it in the fridge, or maybe freeze it as another portion for another day. Or the other option you've got to consider is, does it go in the waste bin, or does it go around your waist? Because essentially, if you're eating more than you need, that's exactly where it's going to go, particularly when you're menopausal, because the fat tends to shift upwards, and we tend to hang onto it around our belly, which is why a lot of menopausal ladies, we end up looking more like apples than we do with pears, because it's all gone. It's about the only thing that does shift upwards. Let's face it, as we get older, everything goes south except for the weight, and it comes up around our middles. So bear that in mind. If you're not hungry, either save it for another day or bin it, because it's only going to go and stick on your waist, which is not where you want it. So I do eat meat. I eat lean organic meat. And but I don't eat much meat. I probably eat meat 2 or 3 times a week. The rest of the time, I try and eat more sort of things like lentils, chickpeas. What else do I have? I mean, I eat loads and loads of vegetables. Buckwheat, I like quinoa, things like that. So those are buckwheat, quinoa, adzuki beans, mung beans, lentils, chickpeas. They all fall under the legumes banner, which they're very high in protein, but they're also very high in fiber, and also lots of vitamins and minerals and essential nutrients that you need. So that's what I will tend to use as sort of like the protein side of my meal when I'm not eating meat. Um, and but I will make sure, say for instance I'm eating lentils, it'll be a smaller portion of lentils with a large portion of vegetables, and I will maybe put nutritional yeast on top of that. If you're a vegan, you'll know what that is. I love nutritional yeast. Sometimes I use feta cheese. A lot of people ask about dairy. There are mixed reports about dairy. I'm pretty much on the fence of dairy. I eat Greek yogurt. I don't drink cow's milk. I drink soya milk because of the phytoestrogens in soya milk. Again, soya gets a bad rap, but I'll cover that in a minute. So some people say, well, if you when we eat protein in the body, well, this is scientific evidence. When we eat protein, it makes our blood take our blood has to sort of find that acid alkaline balance, because protein tends to make us more acidic, and it's really important that the blood stays in a neutral acid alkaline balance. Um, and so one of the tendencies can be, if you've not got enough calcium in your body, is the blood will take the calcium out of your bones. So you'll find reports on Google saying dairy leaches calcium from your bones more than it puts calcium back in. I think that probably depends on a case by case scenario. There seems to be more evidence saying dairy is good for calcium rather than dairy isn't good for calcium. The reason I don't eat dairy or drink cow's milk is because of the way it's farmed, and the fact that a lot of milk does have mucus in it because of the over milking of the cattle, and the fact that a lot of them, they're over farmed, so they end up with abscesses around their teats, nipples, whatever they're called, those things. I should know that, being a woman. They And also if they've got abscesses, there's blood. I mean, it's just, I know it gets pasteurized, but then once it's pasteurized, you lose all the natural goodness from the milk, so you're kind of just drinking white fluid. And funnily enough, we're the only species that drinks the milk from another species. If we were to drink milk from our nearest cousins, we'd be drinking ape milk, and that doesn't sound very tasty or delicious either. So I use soya milk. It's high in phytoestrogens. Soya is also soya gets a bad rap, I think, largely from the dairy board. But I think the difference between the soya that is organic and healthy, there is soya that is GMO and non-organic, and I would steer way clear of that stuff. I only ever drink organic soya milk. I don't drink an awful lot of it. I have some on my cereals when I end up eating cereals, which again isn't that often. Um, and in my coffee, I love soya milk in my coffee, or coconut milk, or cashew milk as well. And but it's a very high in phytoestrogens, got all 9 amino acids. It's good for your heart health. It's got a range of different health benefits, soya has. So that's something to consider. For me, I find it works really well for me. So I suggest to people, if you're making changes to your diet, to track it, to see, so that you've got a really good idea as to whether that's having a positive effect on you or whether it's having a negative effect on you. Things like rice, even if it's a dark rice, a brown rice, or a wild rice, or a red rice, they make me very gassy, and I tend to get a bit bunged up with rice. Whereas if I'm eating things like legumes, so adzuki beans, mung beans, lentils, I react better to them. Not chickpeas, that's not very good with me. But other plants that are sort of high in phytoestrogens are things like peanuts, strangely enough. You want to be making sure you're eating a predominance of green leafy vegetables because they're high in vitamin K, obviously all sorts of different vitamins and minerals, but K will help you absorb calcium. You also want to make sure that ideally you get 20 to 30 minutes outdoors every day, because the vitamin D that you get from the ultraviolet light also helps you absorb calcium. You'll find there's quite a few foods that are fortified with vitamin D, like cereals and milk. Some soya milk is also fortified with vitamin D, but otherwise eat things like mushrooms, green leafy vegetables. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head the other sort of foods that are high in vitamin D. There's a few more. Oh, egg yolks are very good for you as well. Fatty fish, things like that. Flax seeds. I think it's really important that you have a good, obviously make vegetables your main food group on your plate, but you also need healthy fats. You also need lean protein. Healthy fats consist of things like avocados, avocado oil, olive oil, uh, coconut oil, healthy nuts and seeds, but not salted. And not roasted. So ideally, raw almonds, raw walnuts, raw cashews. Those sorts of things are going to also be really beneficial for you. I tend to try and eat just 12 nuts a day. My nuts are my absolute weakness, and I probably eat more healthy fats than a nutritional report would tell me to. But I seem to work really well on it. So I have I have around about 12 to 15 nuts a day, and I also have flax seeds every day. I eat chia seeds every day. They either go into my shake, or they go onto my cereals if I have cereals in the morning, or maybe even sprinkle them on my Greek yogurt if I have that as a dessert in the evening. Um, and and I always have half a ripe avocado, or if it's a really small one, I even have a whole one with my evening meal, because I just think they are, oh, they're delicious and they're so good for us as well. So, and also make sure you're drinking plenty of water. It's really important that you stay hydrated. Now, things to avoid, foods to avoid during menopause. Spicy food can affect us. Now, I love curries and I regularly make my own at home. I don't often buy them out because, again, you don't know what's in them, and they tend to be very high in creamy fat, and they also tend to have sugar in them, and they also tend to be way overloaded with salt. Our daily recommended amount of salt is around about 1 teaspoon. So just be aware of that. It's not a lot. But if you make your own food at home, you might find you're actually sodium deficient. I have started to add a bit more salt to my diet because I make all my own food, and I think I was actually sodium deficient. Since I've added a little more, I notice I'm not getting cramps and things quite as much as I might otherwise do. Especially, I've just started this new bar fusion workout, and a lot of it's on our sort of tiptoes, and my calf muscles just cramp up like nuts. So I'm making sure I stay on top of my salt levels because of that. So yeah, you really want to make sure that you are drinking plenty of water, avoiding spicy food, but track it. I had a curry a while ago, and all night long I had hot flushes. And then I made another curry not long ago, and it didn't bother me at all. So maybe it combined with it was a different flavored curry. So maybe the combination of flavors was, I don't know, had a different impact on me. I'm not entirely sure. Caffeine can be a trigger for a lot of people. That also tends to make you more acidic. So if you're lacking in calcium, caffeine, and also tea. In fact, green tea and black tea are also high in phytoestrogens. Those are the other ones. I knew there were some others. But yeah, coffee and tea tend to make you more acidic. So just be aware of that. If you're a heavy coffee drinker, if you're a heavy tea drinker, you might be leaching more calcium out of your bones than you ideally want to be. Some people do find that caffeine sets off hot flashes. And then the big one, now I have been teetotal for 10 or 11 weeks. And I had 2 glasses of sparkling wine one night and 2 glasses the next night. Since then, I've gone teetotal again because my hot flashes throughout the night were horrendous. And I have been eating a mince pie every day, homemade mince pie. So obviously that's a bit higher in sugar. And I do think sugar triggers the hot flashes incredibly. I think we're so sensitive when we eat bad sugar, and obviously alcohol is fermented sugar. And For me, I noticed a massive difference. My hot flashes all of a sudden came back, and they've gone again since I went teetotal. So I'm going to navigate a few hot flashes over the Christmas period because I am going to be having a few glasses of wine. I love it, but as soon as January hits again, I will be going teetotal when I start my new health and fitness boot camp. So um, just be aware. When I think, again, going back to tracking, when you're trying to make adjustments, if you are really struggling and you need help, you need to kind of decide you're going to support yourself and track it. And that can just be writing it, scribble it down on a piece of paper every day, and and track how many times you're having a hot flash, how many times you're feeling anxious, how you slept that night, whether you've been to the toilet or not that day, because all of these things have an effect on how your body is responding to the changing hormones. And the last thing I would mention is prioritize sleep. I know it's the holiday period and I know there are parties happening, and I'm as tempted as anyone else to think I don't have to get it really early because the children are not going to, or Joe's not going to school and things like that. But sleep is absolutely the foundation for good health. And when we sleep badly, it gives us cravings the next day. We don't make the right decisions the next day. We're more tempted to not make the right decisions. And if you are struggling with symptoms, if you've watched this far, there's definitely, oh, my battery's about to die. I thought I plugged it in. There's definitely, you need to decide to support your health, and the easiest thing to do is prioritize your sleep, drink plenty of water, and make sure that vegetables or salad are the largest portion on your plate. Enjoy the other stuff, but be aware of the fact that you can make a few healthy changes. So instead of things like white rice and pasta, which we tend to eat in, if you have like a bowl of spaghetti, how much of that is pasta? Masses. It should be a tiny amount of spaghetti, probably, that much in your fist, and the rest should be the dressing. Ideally, a lot of tomatoes in there, mushrooms, onions, maybe some spinach, maybe some rocket, arugula, I think you call it in the States, and or arugula, I don't know, arugula, I don't know what it's called over there. So and things like, if I, instead of eating, sorry, my computer's just about to close down. Instead of eating rice, I tend to blitz up cauliflower florets, so raw cauliflower. It makes it look like couscous or buckwheat, but that roasted in the oven or pan fried with a little bit of coconut oil, it's really, really tasty. And that essentially, so if you've got like a curry, instead of having a load of rice with it, have it with cauliflower rice. So you're having your curry and a load of vegetables. It's just like you can't lose, and it's really, really tasty as well. But it won't make your blood sugar spike. You're not going to get the fat hanging around your belly, and you can essentially eat a really healthy, filling meal that ticks all the nutritional boxes. So bear that in mind as well. Zoodles are a great alternative to pasta. It's zucchini over in the States. We call it courgettes over here in the UK. Literally get a spiralizer. I got mine off Amazon for £12, I think it was. And I literally spiralize some courgettes, zucchini, and I pan fry them for about 2 to 3 minutes before they start to release water, because once that's happened, they go a bit soggy. They're still okay, but I think they're nice and crispy. And then just put some sauce over the top of those. Slow roast some red peppers, slow roast some big tomatoes, drizzle it with some balsamic vinegar, blend all that up into lovely puree. You could then sort of scatter some nutritional yeast over the top of it. We could add some cheese if you eat dairy, and that makes a really, really flavoursome, tasty, filling meal. But it ticks all the nutritional boxes. So where you can substitute with something healthy, do it. But just remember, things like carbs and white rice and bread, just reduce them. You can still enjoy them, but just reduce the amount that you have, and make the other things bigger. Ideally vegetables. Again, if you have like a massive slab of steak on your plate, that extra protein, your body can only take in so much. So while it might be tasty, it's just going to, the rest of it will turn to fat. So you've got to keep asking yourself, am I full? If the answer is yes, either store it for another day, oh, everything's gone, or put it away, and that's it. Put it in the bin, because waste bin or your waste, which one do you want? So I hope that's been helpful. And any question or any comments for future Menopause Mondays, please let me know. Either leave me a comment underneath this or send me a private message. And thank you for joining me. And yes, if you've got any comments you want to leave, then I'll get back to them as the day progresses. So have a great Christmas, you guys. Wish you everything good and enjoy it. But just remember to more veggies than anything else, okay? Okay, catch you soon.